So, we're now moving on to next topic, and it's a bit about more forensic. I need your presentation though. Yeah, perfect. So I introduced you Matt Wahlrab. He's actually flown in from US. So he no, that's perfect shape. So it's great to have you here, and I mean, you have been diving into the IP for a long time, but before that, actually, he is a true dive master, giving open PADI licenses on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So that was the preparation for diving into IP. I think that helped you a lot, right?
A ton.
Yeah, a ton.
Yeah,
so
diving deep, trying not to get the bends.
yeah, so
Yeah.
let it do it.
Yeah, give this a whirl. All right, so here we go.
The driver is working.
We're about to find out. Okay, great. So one of the things I want to encourage everyone to do is just think a little bit. Just about everybody in here has a sizable amount of experience in intellectual property. Imagine if there was a way for you to readily access all the patents you've ever seen, any patent you've ever drafted, any market reports you've ever seen, all the competitive intelligence, licensing, royalties, all these benchmarks. You just had them in one spot. And even more, you could get the benefit of all of the knowledge and awareness of all of your team members and be able to import that information and apply it to a task that you had at hand. Imagine such a thing existed. You might be able to use it for fantastic FTO, certainly accelerate through patentability. You might be able to do landscaping. For me, I like to have access to all this information, and one of the ways that I'm applying it as an innovation manager is attempting to help my clients achieve success at a higher rate of finding product market fit than what they do before. And while I work in innovation management, like many of you, I have a strong background in intellectual property. So for me, one of the fantastic things about IP, and certainly one of these things about my core mission of increasing success in innovation, actually harkens back to some fundamentals in intellectual property. And what I've been finding is can I build this tool and I consistently find the ability to take any concept and convert it into patent claims is immensely beneficial for creating structure around data, and then also giving me an opportunity to pull in other things like AI to get me the data I need to deliver the insights that people are counting me to deliver. So I've been on this journey for about 5 years to build really good data sets, and to imagine, for me, starting about 2000 on patent searches, by and large, those things haven't changed in the past 20 plus years. And that is insane to me. So what I'm attempting to do is to imagine, based upon the tools that we have today and the challenges we truly actually face on a day-to-day basis in our roles, how might we use technology to create different outcomes? So a lot of the things that I'm looking at is the data that I actually have access to and available, and how do I apply a lot of these tools without taking all of the magic moments in my role where it's like, oh, I've never seen this data with this data and this data, but now that I see it in front of me, here's something that we've never done before. And we feel like there's a really good shot for it to exist. Along the way, what we're seeing is there's actually opportunities for AI, especially when we have human in loop, to find success and actually make AI work for us. As we go along and do this, as we create a data set of huge amounts of information, this contextual information actually allows us to better model what the world is today, what we think it could be 3 to 5 years from now, and helping to take our companies, imagine what their best looks like in meeting their customer demands 3 to 5 years from here. And with that, we've actually achieved a handful of results and still continue to see opportunities. So for me, if we just look at the front end of innovation and any of the clients that we work with, they generally have some form of idea capture. They have to go through some assessment to say yes or no, we want to do an idea or we don't. They'll do some evaluations, right, to get there. And then at some point in time, they have to figure out if they're going to buy a solution from someone else, build it themselves, partner with other people, or potentially invest in a solution while they wait for the market to develop. What I consistently see as I go through these things is that some of the data, and a lot of us are probably seeing more like an invention disclosure statement on the front end. A lot of us, as we go through these things and we build the corpus of knowledge, we see that the data actually replicates itself and matures. So one of the examples might be a technology readiness level based upon a NASA scale. We might see when we pick it up on the corporate side, it's at a TRL level 6, meaning it's ready to start field trials. And then over time, what you would expect to see if you see that technology getting adoption is that it's advancing from TRL 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to a product, and you should be able to see that journey if there's traction. So being able to use some of these insights, one of the things that we're doing to be able to build a data set that we can access all of our know-how and knowledge from is to start with something like an idea capture, and can we start creating an anchor that we can attach information to so we might be able to find it in the future. One of the ways that we do that is to take exactly like a patent claim, here's my 5 elements. I have these 5 elements. With dependent claims, you might embellish on what those elements are doing and provide more detail and information. All of that helps us build really a semantic data set that we can explore other materials with. And then one of the things that we like to do to build context is to say, where does this innovation live in its value chain? Where would I find it out in the wild? That way I can potentially look for other instances of evidence. Along the way, what ends up happening is we take information from technology landscaping, market landscaping, competitor information, IP, financial statements, and take the value chain and the components and start building out a profile of what this thing looks like. And then normally what people expect to see is reports coming out of the information. And one of the things that we do in an idea capture form for us is have things that help us find IP, characterize the market, understand the technology that's being developed as well as alternatives, and also take a look at competitor information. Based upon that information, we see immediately that things like patentability reports, market entry reports, even licensing, if you wanted to build a licensing campaign, you could start using some of this information to pre-populate other reports. But the challenge often is how do I find that information? So if you haven't been hugged enough as a child like me, you get really into searching. I can get lost in searching, no problem, and it gives me one of these things we call in my company browser acne, where the top where it shows all the tabs that are open, just a massive outbreak. And so I'll go through and say, hey, I have this project. I need to do a technology scan. Out of that technology scan, there's 3 documents. I go through those 3 documents. Each one of these little colored circles underlies a particular type of information that I need to find based upon my tech scan. And what we're seeing is that you could actually start building profiles around a document to say, when I look at this document, these are the types of things I'm interested in finding out. And so while you might spend time looking at something like document 1 with its information, you could have your AI actually going ahead of you and looking to see if it can find things that are interesting for you based upon what you're doing in the first document. And as you go through, you could actually start inventorying things that you find as interesting and things that are not interesting. And that should all be based upon, again, going back to claim language, does this concept have the technology that I'm actually interested in? So as we do this, to think about how we might go through a process of automation, I start going through and saying, hey, I need to build a report. I need to know what is good data. At the end of the day, good data, the ultimate judgment is how well does it allow me to predict what will happen in the future. I need to be able to go through, do my searches, and what I'm hoping will end up happening is building a general purpose tool that helps me say, oh, this type of document is a peer-reviewed journal article. This individual always extracts these types of bits of information from that peer-reviewed journal article. Where could I find other peer-reviewed journal articles related to this portion of the value chain that others have found information? And can I start queuing up some of those search results? That way subject matter experts like you all can go through and say, yeah, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You can flush this one right down the toilet. This, on the other hand, right, is actually interesting. And so while this is relatively complicated, it should work quite simply from a user standpoint. One of the things we're looking to do is to just build a browser plugin where you go on your browser and as you're viewing things, you can just highlight and immediately push things into a data set and then review on the back end in a user interface. Do all these classifications that I did, do these all make sense? And then be able to rerun your searches. Some of the applications that we're seeing in terms of how we're using data and information is to flesh out or provide very specific types of reports once we build the data set once. And then over time, what we're hoping to do is to just first, round one, boil the ocean, and then over time, maintenance the information as the product, right, gets traction and lives out its life cycle. So you could actually monitor and evolve things like your patent portfolio as the market is evolving and your products are evolving. Overall, one of the big things that we want to do is start gleaning and extracting insights. And for us, the bullseye that we want to get our clients to are those unique opportunities where our clients can build something because the technology is viable, there's clear market demand, and the business itself actually has the capabilities of delivering that solution. For something to be in the bullseye, we're really looking for factors that exist in the market that say based upon these assumptions, there's a high probability that people will actually want to buy this solution. Off the back end, when we're able to classify these bullseyes, we can actually start feeding information to other departments. So one of the stakeholders for us ends up being the intellectual property department, IP. Sometimes it's in CTO, sometimes it's reporting into legal. But we can go through and take a portfolio of program efforts, that's like the TR002 going all the way to the RK0001, and provide some scoring based upon information that people have classified. And then based upon some of these scores, you can translate that into what might go into an IP plan. So based upon the score, how do we normally treat these things so I can get an understanding before I go in and have a conversation with someone about how I might best protect my company's interests in any type of engagement. The other thing that we can do, which I find also helpful in building IP plans, is understanding our portfolio mix. And so as we go through and think about lower risk, modest return, somewhat higher risk, high return, and balancing out the portfolio, having some contextual information about where you have opportunities to spend budget based upon what's going out of your portfolio and what may be coming in can help make more informed decisions to make sure that the dollars, instead of blanket spending across a portfolio, you can more strategically invest in these things that have the highest probability of success in creating the largest amount of competitive advantage for the business. While we do this, one of the other things we like to do, because I know one of the challenges that I've always had with IP is as I go through patents, if I spend a bunch of time with a patent, there's a really good shot I'll memorize the patent number, and there's many that are scorched into my brain because I've spent so much time on them. Others, if I have some type of cue, I can figure it out. So in a mining context, if I think about the value chain and how it works and operates, we like to start creating user interfaces where we can take the technical components and the value chain and start creating a more interesting way of being able to find something. I may not remember who exactly filed something or who was talking about it, but if I know the discipline or the product area that we're working in, I can get to the underlying data. And so some of the things that we might do is as you go and zoom in out of a high level, trying to create more visual interfaces to be able to get to the information that we want and need. And then, because we got a bunch of IP people in here, I love data. I could live in Excel. Just me. All right. Just me. Okay, that's fine. So one of the interesting things is we put together a report because I get very frustrated at people saying, oh, well, if you follow this methodology, you'll certainly be successful. And what I've traditionally found is those that are selling me methodologies to innovate generally are very good at marketing, generally don't have the data that they need to support what they're saying. So we took a look at Hoffman LaRoche as a pharmaceutical company, and we said, how did these guys go from being about number 15 in the world some 20 odd years ago to consistently being number 1 in the world with respect to pharmaceutical sales? And this is before Ozempic popped. But one of the things that we saw is if we look at the patent data, we look at all their financial information, mergers and acquisitions they've done, and their press releases, as well as things that they say in their financial reports and communicating to investors, we could actually get a very good understanding about how they use buy, build, partner, and invest to construct out their portfolio. And all these things become very interesting in that if you're spending time in a data source and you have a tool that easily allows you to classify information, you can work through it and pull out a bunch of different types of insights. And so one of the things that we're always looking for is what are the overall trends? How can we create signals to us as practitioners based upon some of these trends such that these tools are working for us so we can investigate further and apply our own knowledge and information across the top? Other things that end up happening is, just looking for, these insights. What happens with some of these success rates? How does this company become as successful as it is? And are there opportunities for me and my business and my industry to take advantage of some of these insights? One of the ways that we're going through in leveraging AI is by partnering with other organizations to do the work that I know I don't have the skill set to do. You're not going to see me developing large language models, but I'll classify the hell out of a data set if you give it to me. I just love being in the data. So if I can go through and start with an idea capture to go back to some of the other insights that we've seen, a lot of people have mentioned, well, if I have good information going into an AI model, I can get higher quality results out. So one of the things that we did, we found we could get really good results with IP Screener, but a question for us is how good could these results be? And how might we take some of the forms and the way we populate them to get better information and data out? So one of the things that we go through is with some of these technical elements, we certainly say this is what we would expect to see in a patent claim for what we're working on, and then we have an understanding of where it lives in the value chain. We take all the information from the idea capture and just start pulling some of the most relevant things that IP Screener is giving us. And because they give us the ability to cite relevance, we can rerun and refresh those results. At the end of it, because we can go through and we developed a tool that allows us to take these 5 elements and actually go through the patent and color code and say, while this says vehicle, the patent that I'm looking at, right, is talking about a car, which is definitely a vehicle. So I'm going to put these guys together in my synonym bank. What I can end up doing is taking that synonym bank and start pulling URLs from operators that are in the space, just take their homepage and then use a web crawler to say, hey, does this company have a product, right, that's relevant? I think they should because they're an assignee on a patent that I have. And so in this way, we can start going through and putting checkboxes to do product comparisons and features. Other things that we can do is we can do a high, medium, and low NA assessment to say if I was looking at a processor, I need to see a processor in a claim. It would be high if it's in the independent claim, a medium if it's in a dependent claim, and a low if it only exists in the expanded detailed description. If I go through and I get this type of information, there's so much I can do in terms of figuring out, okay, do I want to patent this? What am I going to be up against? What's the most representative art? And does anything actually have all the elements that I'm looking at? So I can start proactively figuring out what my claims would need to look like if I'm going to file a patent application. And so this is an example of being able to apply different filters, putting an and over the top and saying, hey, if there's 30,000 patents in this data set, and I've already primed the database with some keywords, you go through and do this mapping and pairing. And then for some of the other things that we've looked at is with Human in Loop is just how can we go through, take this information and be able to create filters so I can interact with the data to see if I can find something I've just never seen before. And I know at least for the things that we do with IP Screener, I feel like there's a real opportunity since we're identifying the structural components of the claims, searching against claim elements, that perhaps we can use some of this generative AI because we're actually giving the AI better information on what we would expect to see with claims. So could this be something that helps us unlock patent drafting, right, in the future? One of the other things that I like to think is especially for patent examiners, it's very frustrating for me that the EPO and the USPTO doesn't take advantage of all the office actions that they issue. It drives me totally nuts. You have to imagine these patent examiners go through, sitting in their class code, see so many patents with overlapping information that there should be some way of being able to pull out the patent, pull out the claim elements, and then take a look and say, well, if I wanted to not allow, right, these claims, if I wanted to test inventive step, for example, this is how I would do it. here's an asset that predates. And what I find is if I look at other examiners that are doing the same work, they tend to be very successful at eliciting a claim change. So I could have more confidence on how a technology actually came about, how it's evolving, and where the thought leadership that's driving success in the market actually comes from. And so I feel like there's these opportunities to create custom data sets for individuals to be able to get more of your data, more of your insights, and just be able to apply it in the roles that you have. And with that, that's it. Guess if anybody has any questions, be happy to.
Thank you, Matt. But you're not diving on that. Is that boat, actually? Are boats?
That's before I fall in.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So do we have any questions? Yeah, Fredrik over there.
I apologize for this IP screener specific question, but you asked me a question which was very good, so I asked you in return. What in IP screener, what feature is you missing most? Are you missing most if you are realistic? Perhaps we can team up together.
Yeah, that's really good. So.
Okay, that's good. Kind of feedback group here.
Yeah.
Okay, some drinks.
I guess for me, I'm looking at being able to build automations and sharing information. If I have two people that are performing a patentability report or FTO in the same area, I want to be able to know that someone's actually looked at a patent asset and curate what comes out of IP Screener or any search result to say this patent's already been seen. It has these similarities with the search that you're doing, so we don't need to see that for right now. That's not going to be a top candidate. And then on the back end, after I've seen all the good stuff, I would love the position to be able to go in and audit the things that were actually eliminated and ruled out on the back end. So I can start generating some confidence and exhaustively going through the corpus of patents to be able to find those things that are most relevant to the work that I'm doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Is there a hand up over there? Or?
No.
A half one.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Then I think we thank you for a great
Sure.
speech.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken.
No problem.
Now we can relax. So back at hotel room, we can finally enjoy Sweden for true.